This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, here we are getting ready for the 4th of July weekend, and what a great time. You've got 3 days, most people some have 4, that you can really do some noodling on your publishing and your writing. And the whole thrust of what I wanted to talk about today, and it's just going to be me today with you, is a class I'm starting next week. And I'll talk about what we're going to be doing online. But this class is literally all about how to write a book in 4 weeks. This is for nonfiction. I mean, it's tough to do a full-blown fiction with all the nuances that you have to do. But how do you write a book in a quick period of time? And I'll tell you, one of the things you have to do is you have to get your act together. So you're past the noodle, I'm going to write a book. You've got to have a topic, but I'm going to get you into some really key points of trying to get your head around how do you get into writing? Because my mantra, and you've heard me say this for the, last month, I've been just really grilling it in, but short is the new black. That unless you're into a full-blown entertainment read, that you don't have to worry about, I've got to keep it in, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 words. I can really expand a character development or a really plot going into that you do so often with the fiction side. Nonfiction is a different animal, and that you want to really think about, okay, how can I get my ideas across in a short period of time that someone could read from beginning to end, an airplane ride. Now, you know what? I'm going to give you a round trip. You can bring them home. But I'm not talking about flying from, let's say, Denver, which is where I live, Colorado, to Hong Kong. I'm not, or Denver to Sydney. I mean, we're talking about a lot of hours. I'm talking about really getting across, because today's nonfiction reader is looking for one thing usually, and it's called a solution to a problem. All right, we want to get to it faster. I mean, just think about it. How many times have you ever gone through a situation where you picked up a book and you've kind of skimmed through it like crazy? Okay, where's the key points? Where's those bullets I'm looking for? Where's the how-tos that will get you to that beginning to the end without going through all the scientific data or all the support data? Maybe you know a lot of that. What's the new twist here? All right, that's what I'm talking about, is getting here where you have it and that you can bring it about very quickly and try to put it together. So I'm going to give you some key points to get you there and writing through from the beginning to the end. So I'm going to share with you some of the prep work I did for how to write a book in 4 weeks that all my students, we have a sold out class face to face. And actually, I will tell you that right now on the bookshepherd.com website is we're going to be doing an online course for this. So this would be ideal for anyone who already has a book out. I'm going to show you how to so repurpose that so quickly. But we'll be doing that during August, Tuesday nights in August, hot August nights, and get your book there. So if you want to join us, information is on the bookshepherd.com website. And that's going to be very limited because I'm going to be doing a lot of off-site coaching with you, on the phone and with Skype to get you through the process. So with that, here's the things that I want you to do, and you've got to start noodling what your topic is. When they come in the door next Tuesday night, when I am working with them, they already have to know what the topic is. They may not have the title of their book. It could be a working title, which is fine, but it is all about, by the time they're done that night, I will have their title for them because I have a very specific title exercise we do to get that into point. The third thing you have to really know for nonfiction writing is who your reader is, as well as what's their pain. And pain is the right word. What's their pain? So that's the problem. Now, the 4 components, when I was selling my books to New York, which, I did 18 of my 33, and I'm actually working on book number 34 right now, is I did my 18 books that I sold to New York was always on this concept. What's the problem? What's the cause? What's the effect? And what's the solution? All right. So when people are looking very quickly through something that they're trying to get hold of so fast, that they know what their problem is. Now they want the pain resolved. So you as the expert are going to deliver that in the solution. So that's where you will go for it. Now, the thing that you want to do is you're setting up and putting this together. Your topic. Okay. What's the problem? You should have an idea of a causation. Because when you're starting to do this, you've got to get past all your research has got to be done. Whether your blogging you've done, any articles you've written, any articles you've gathered from other people who have written them. This is where you'd highlight, copy, paste. Okay, I can pull this. I can cite this. Yeah, they said it all wrong. I'm going to repurpose this and redo it all in my own words and my style because there's nothing specifically research titled to it. It's just a concept out there, and I'm going to domino off of it. All right, no problem with doing that. So you're going to have it all together, and then you're going to start chopping up. Okay, what's the natural sequence that this is going to be presented with? Now, I am a humongous believer in stories and using stories that will connect your reader instantly. Now, some of them may be your own personal stories, like about you, or it could be someone you've been in contact with. The purpose is that that person who is reading is going to be able to say that she's talking to me. He knows me. My God, this could be me. Or it could be a scenario, well, this sounds like my cousin George. Or, Harvey, this is Harvey. Martha just went through this. So you have that personal connection. And I'm telling you, when you do that very early on in a chapter, that you bring your person in, your reader in, and they're with you and you flow through it. All right. So you want to have those elements in place. And so where will they drop in? And just to take that, when I'm speaking out on the road, when I know I have a certain size audience, and if I know whether it's dominated with males or females, I know exactly what story I am going to open up with. And that's what I want you to do with this chapter development in writing, that as you go along. Okay. So what story would support or focus on the key element, the key point in my chapter? Now, the other thing is important to remember in chapter development, short is the new black. You are not going to develop a 30-page chapter. We're talking about 10 pages or less. We're talking about 5 pages. Perfect. Key points. There's natural breaks in most chapters that can be divvied up. I'm working on right now on a book on, getting motivated and succeed by an entrepreneur who is just off the wall. He's only 18 and you can't believe what this young man has done already. And that the book came in with 30 and 40 pages. Well, that has been just so chopped into much smaller nuggets and bites that people can move with and go with. So that's the kind of thing that I want you to think about as you go forward here. Now, a couple of other things as we go forward with, the very first, the setup, your preparation to write your book is some critical questions that you should be considering in this process. And the first would be, moving along the line, is that you want to make sure that you know what your book's about. Okay, we covered that. Who your audience is, that's critical. And then I also want you to be thinking about, do we have any other side products that you could sell, you could create off of it? And you never know. For example, you may have, this is how you get to the shorter part, you may have a lot of things that you could reference. Maybe you have worksheets. Maybe your book is a how-to book that's going to have worksheets and really key references. Why not make them? You do a reference within your book, and you then will reference over to your website. And guess what? They buy them off of your website. Or maybe, you have worksheets that you include within your website that you then will come off of, and you will have that you will come off and you will be able to create those as a duplicate that you actually sell. You have maybe a kit. You bundle some things together. So be thinking about doing those things. And then I also want you to think from is, okay, when I get my book done, and we're going to talk about ways to create the book. When I get my book done, how am I going to move this? Is it going to be strictly off my website? Am I going to do it on Amazon? And I'm going to tell you, yes, you are. And am I going to create an ebook? And I'm going to tell them, yes, you are. Am I going to do an ebook exclusively? And I'm going to tell you, no, you're not. It is crazy not to create at least a print-on-demand model, because there's a lot of people that I know I've been frustrated myself when someone says, I only have ebook, and I have not bought it. Because there are certain books I'm looking for that I actually have in hand that I can pick up quickly and look at. And the other truth is, I'm on a computer all day. The last thing I want to do is to read another book on a screen. I really pull away from that. There are a lot of people, like the majority of people, who are like that. Don't leave out your market. All right? Make sure your book solves a solution. So are you going to solve solutions within each chapter? Is each chapter going to be laid out with a problem that you're going to resolve in it? Or is it an overall thing that accumulates until you get to the end point? I would encourage you, if that's that way, make sure that you have a kind of what I call summing up that will bring it about within the chapter that will do a natural segue to your next chapter. And then you always want to think about, as you go through each chapter, is that what value does this bring to your reader? It is certainly important to have that in play. And then lastly, as we come into it, we're going to do our first quick break, but then you've got to be looking at, where are you going to be writing and creating this phenomenal thing? I'll be right back. This is Judith Briles, and you're listening to Author You, your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Many of us have dreamed of writing a book.
Some of us even have.
Then the hard work starts.
You'll need an editor.
Who will design the cover or typeset the pages?
Who will format the ebook?
If you're a business owner, consultant, or coach with a serious message and expertise to share, the team of experts at 1106 Design can guide you through the maze.
They've helped more than 1,000 authors create top-quality books and avoid the not-so-reputable self-publishing companies.
Learn more at 1106design.com.
Then call Michelle at 602-866-3226. 1106 Design.
Is there a book in you or another? Author You will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. Author U brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through Author U's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, Author U is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join Author U today through its website at authoru.org. Follow Author U on Twitter at Author U and on Facebook at Author U, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. Author U, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network, radio with a cutting edge.
First impressions are everything in the world of book publishing. Whether your book is an ebook, a print version, or both, your book cover needs to pop, sizzle, and sparkle to immediately capture the attention of your audience. And your book's interior needs to be just as dynamic and reflect the professionalism your readers demand. Nick Sellinger of NZ Graphics has won numerous national and international book awards for his cover designs and interior layouts. With over 20 years of experience in graphic design, he knows what it takes to create award-winning books and the many promotional pieces that authors need, such as posters, banners, postcards, one-sheets, business cards, logos, and more. Visit ncgraphics.com and see what authors and publishers have to say about their award-winning books and how NZ Graphics can make your book the success it was meant to be. That's nzgraphics.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Alrighty, so one other thing in getting ready to write your book, that first prep thing is you got to figure out these three components. Number one, your mindset. Okay, I'm going to do it. This is the goal over the next month. And I'm talking about doing this in a month, although you could spread it out. But I'm trying to accelerate what you're doing because I have so many authors who, when they say, oh, I've been working on my book for 14 years. And I go, oh my God, your book is so dated. And look, things move so fast that time is of the essence in moving stuff, especially if you have a very topical topic. It could be groundbreaking, news-breaking. It's amazing what you can do with extreme focus. Think of it, the extreme sports, extreme writing, extreme focus. So what's your mindset? You want to get your head around and be in the right place, that this is what you're going to write about. You're the expert. And you need to, by the way, start using expert behind your name. I'm an expert in blank, blank, blank. And I want you to visualize it, and even pick up a big person on visualizing, and do a mock cover. I'm not saying for you to do your cover, but just even write the working title of your cover or just the topic and get it up there and put it so you can visualize and see it. All right. And then you want to really make sure that you've got to have the right environment. So if you have dogs barking all the time, it's not going to work. If you've got kids running around you all the time, it's not going to work. So find the place. For me, I've got to have some sun coming in my life. I've got to have, when I'm really into deep diving, I have to have water sounds. So I have waterfalls around my home, and I've got inside and outside. Those are things that are necessities to me. I have been known to get on a cruise ship and actually start and pound out multiple chapters on a cruise ship. I've written half a book on a cruise ship, and then you come back and you do fine tuning, but getting that first draft done. I've ended books on a beach writing. I have to have those kind of things in my environment. That may not be your shtick, but find out what it is and make sure that you have those coming in. I mean, I've always told people I actually get book fat because I have my favorite snacks around. One book I wrote, every time I finished a chapter, I got a whole big bag of M&Ms. I gained 10 pounds on that bloody book. All right, so prep work. So what's your vision, right? And you're committed. That's why you're doing it. You've got to be heavily duty committed to this. And this is another keeper. I'm going to give you a couple keepers. One was short is the new black. Number 2 is don't do well what you have no business doing. And when I say that is that it's very easily to get distracted and pulled away. And you may be the most amazing party giver. For example, this coming weekend in America, it's 4th of July, big weekend. Yesterday was Canada Day. big, a lot of people celebrate Canada Day through Canada, through the whole weekend, and do that celebration. All right. So that if you're a great organizer, and someone says, Louie, you have got to be the organizer, the big block party, blah, 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 blah. And you'd have to say, I thank you. Thank you for recognizing how good I am at doing this, but I'm working on this project. I'm under commitment. I've got to get it done. So all I can do this year is kind of participate and show up. I can't do all the organizing. You've got to say no. If you've got to say no, you've got to do well what you have no business doing. So number 2 is don't do well what you have no business doing, at least for right now. And number 3 is if you never say no, your yeses are worthless. It's so important to incorporate no. I mean, you can't do yes all the time. And that goes along with how serious you are in that commitment. All right. Then I want you to do is that, what's the final outcome? And I want you to visualize, besides, my book cover, visualize what's the outcome? Where are you going with this book? Is it going to create an expanding career? Is it going to add to your credibility? Yes, it should. Is it going to be something that you're going to shoot out to the media, trying to hook on to get some attention that way? Is it going to be something that you're going to be sending out to individuals to maybe book you for a speaking gig? And here it's coming. This is your, you're the expert of this. This is your forthcoming book. It'll be available within 2 months, etc. So what's the purpose of that? It's always good and important to have that in play. And then you've got that going on. Now, you need some tools, environment, your mindset, and all that. So how are you going to move you forward? And make sure that your anchor is, and by the way, one of the things that I have in my environment is that if you're the chief bottle washer and cook in the household, maybe someone else needs to come in and handle this for you, or you get down into minis on how you do that. So create that so you have that in play and doing that, because otherwise you will get off grid very, very quickly on putting that together. So steps in starting to create your manuscript is that I want you to go into Google and do some last minute searching on, is there any breaking news in your topic? Very important to do this. And you're just going to, Google, latest news on fill in the blank, whatever it is. And just look it over. Is there anything new, or is there did something get written, that was an intriguing phraseology? You want to print that out. You want to have that in front of you. Maybe you can manipulate a little bit and use it. Or maybe you make a direct quote in it. And this goes into the chapter that would be relevant to that. So you're going to be, you've had, your topic, problem, cause, effect, solution. So what was the natural sequence that you came through that you wanted these chapters to go into play? A lot of people will ask me, well, do I start writing chapter 1 first? Maybe chapter 3, what you thought is might be chapter 3 or a topic. And by the way, I sometimes don't have all my chapters laid out as chapters. I think of writing as a puzzle. And that you're doing a puzzle, most people who do puzzles, and we do puzzles in my household, is that you always go for the outline. You have to get the, whatever the shape is, whether it's a square, a rectangle, or something odd, you get that, you go for those pieces that will develop the shape. All right. So that's what your structuring is that you're going to do with that problem, cause, effect, solution. And that's what that structuring is going to do is you start, okay, what kind of chapters will go into them? And you'll start piecing together. And then as in a puzzle piece, a lot of times you'll start to, oh, here's all the reds. Here's, all the browns, different shades of brown. These all kind of go in this corner or these two corners. You start putting them together and then they start piecing together. And there are many times when I thought something was, the first 3 chapters, I would have found out that they came into play is that, they belong later on. You move them around. And also, let me say this about introductions. It's very common for nonfiction for people to do introductions, and I'm going to tell you, don't. Because so many will skip an introduction thinking it's really not important. I just want to get into chapter 1. And unless it's a real prelude to it, that they get it, I would create it as chapter 1 because most people put in an introduction really important stuff. And it really is the setup for the entire book. It could be your personal story. It's the setup for the entire book. Started as chapter 1. So they get it from the get-go, skip the introduction. And if you have someone that comes along and says, oh, hot patootie, I'm going to do this, I'll do a forward for you, that's where that stands. But introductions usually should be chapter 1, just my 2 bits there. All right, so with this, as we go along, you're going to create this. So you've done a Google for last-minute search. You've gone through, you're going to go through all articles that you've written, any blogs you have written, anything you've written. Do you have a previous book you've written that is related to this or something that you can pull from it? True story, I wrote a book called Gender Traps for McGraw-Hill long, long ago. And that I always knew that the 9th trap that came from a survey of 5,000 women I did in the workplace was a standalone book. And that 9th trap was self-sabotage. When I asked one question, 5,000 responses, what are the biggest problems you're encountering in your workplace? Number 9 was I undermine myself. I knew that was a standalone book. I always saved all those interviews I had, all the nuggets I had in a separate folder, knowing that someday I would come back, and I did write Stop Stabbing Yourself in the Back, which did quite well. So what have you done? What have you published that you can pull from? Because one of the great, wonderful things about people who are self-publishers and independent publishers is we can plagiarize ourselves wonderfully well. We don't have to worry about any of this stuff. So pull yourself out, do that last-minute Google search, see any late-breaking news, any blogs that you follow, or I would be Googling all top influencers in this expertise area and make sure that there's anything out there, and then you're going to stop doing that. You stop. Because now you're going to start cutting, pasting, putting it together. And one of the critical things that you're going to be doing as you're going along is you're going to look for nuggets, these ahas. Well, when we come back after this next break, I'm going to tell you exactly what you're going to do with these nuggets. This is Judith Briles, and you're listening to Your Guide to Book Publishing. We're talking about how to write a book really fast.
This is Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on Your Guide to Book Publishing with Judith Briles, we will provide you a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network, radio with a cutting edge.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers, creating beautiful and well-made books. We're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title title, Enhancing the Promotion of Your Book During Infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Alrighty, so I left you with a nugget. And one of the things that is really important, especially in nonfiction, is that you think about visual eye candy, and we're by the way, the size of the book, I don't want to see it really much more than 5 by 8 for a smaller book. 5.5 by 8.5 is absolutely the max today. Do not go down the 6 by 9 line. But 5 by 8, I mean, I even did my latest book, which is called The Crowdfunding Guide for Authors and Writers, which I would recommend all of you get on Amazon, is 5 by 7. In fact, I would recommend that you get it so you have a copy so you can see what this is a 96-page book. It's in full color throughout. But we're looking for doing short snips. And when you can start creating these books for $12 to $15, I could have written a huge book. There's all kinds of components to crowdfunding, but I put all of it in a nutshell kind of thing, in the Author U Mini Guide series, that when you can start doing it, people have less time. They do. They're not lazy. I got in quite an argument with some people saying, oh, they're lazy. No, people are overloaded. So I try to put the key essentials, the key elements. This is how you do it, from social media to putting together to the video to etc. And that, as you pull that together, then that you just really want to think, okay, how can I trim down? So one of my goals was to get to around 100-page book, which I did. It came in at 96 pages with that. So, and it's a 5 by 7. I wanted a small book that people could just slip on, they could refer to all the time, and they wouldn't have to feel like, oh my God, I have to lug around. One of the things, those nuggets, as I said, I've referred to, was the visual candy, and that people, unless it's a fiction book, nonfiction does not work as effectively today with the way the day's readers are, with line after line after line after line after line in perpetuity of text. So you have to do breakups, so how are you going to do breakups? You're going to do subheads. Maybe you're nifty with your own illustrations and artwork. You can drop something in, or maybe you have rights to something that you can bring it in, and you can just, you've paid for it and you can just drop it in and you can use it. Make sure you have usage. There are also places that you can go to and you can get, for images like Phototella, which I think is fairly good for a very reasonable rate. You can get, rights, it could be $1 or $2 and you can use these images all over the place. So, look at those kind of things. I don't like to go to iStock and stock photo if you're going to use photos in there. And by the way, if you're going to use photos, make sure you print on white paper. And by the way, nonfiction should be on white paper, not natural or ivory or cream or whatever they want to call it. You want it on white paper for nonfiction books. Fiction books go to the natural colors. That you want to, if you're going to have an illustration in, or if you're doing tables or graphs, charts, that breaks it up. The other thing is I like to use a call out, or if it's full page, be a sidebar. But one of the things that I found that's been so effective for my nonfiction writers I work with is to create call-outs. So I'm looking as I'm reading through the text, and I'll ask the author, go through it, and if there is one or two tidbits within this chapter that if there is one thing that you don't want that reader to leave without fully grasping, what is it? Highlight it for me. And I don't want a paragraph. I want like a line, and highlight it for me. And here's what I do. I will duplicate it. I will carry that up, and maybe it'll be a couple of paragraphs before, or I will carry it, it could be a full page before, and I will drop it in, and I will have it set out so the interior designer of the book, for what we do in our offices, we just put start box, we duplicate it, drop it in, and then we do end box. So when the interior designer is going through and designing the book, what they will know is think, this is going to be treated special. And so we have some customizing, whether it's going to be a wraparound of text, whether it's going to be some kind of a gray shading, whether it's going to be a special image that gets dropped in just for that kind of treatment throughout. So when the reader is going through the book, and they get used to you and your words and your message, and they start seeing these, they will recognize them, like, this is an aha. It's an aha. And they will recognize them, and it acts as a tease to lead them through. So do this. And it customizes it a little bit, and it makes you a little bit different. So that's what I love to do. All right. So you're into your chapter. All right. So how are you going to create your chapter piles and all the information? You can compiling everything on your computer. I would make sure you have a separate folder for every chapter, so that that chapter, whether it's chapter 3, and it's on fear. Let's just say you're doing something and you've got a fear chapter. So all those articles that you have found, whether you've copied them from off the internet and that's where you drop them all in. Okay, then you're going to go through and you're going to highlight those key components. Oh yeah, that's a major message here. You're going to have those key components. And you're going to bring those in as you bring it together so that you can start piling. Now, I will tell you that I actually would print out sections because I would kind of spread it all out so I could visually, I'm one of these people, I want to see everything all at once. I got to see it all in front of me. So I have a big table that I will clear out and I will work on. And literally, and then I start assembling, and then you can actually start, and I've done this, by the way, with Post-its, and I start moving things around because as I'm starting to bring it together, I will create a board. And for those of you who have my Author You book, Creating and Building Your Author and book platforms, that I actually took you through my book called Stabotage, How to Deal with Pit Bulls, Skunks, Snakes, Scorpions, and Slugs in the Healthcare Workplace. And I did a lot of work in healthcare. And as I took it through that, then I had, I created a board, for each chapter. That, from the title, the key elements of the chapter, maybe there was an exercise. I had different color Post-its that would tell me, and was there an interview? Do I have a quiz in here? Do I have call outs? And I would just have a few words on this very small board for each chapter with Post-its on it, color identity with habit, and it would tell me exactly what I'd look for. And then I would have literally a cross section that I knew where that article was or that thing that I'd written myself already that I was going to pull from. And maybe I already wrote the chapter and it was part of another book, and I'm going to drop it in and now just do some tweaking and rewriting, updating it, gussy it up, fill in the blank, and I would bring it all together. And I can't tell you how fast that can move you. And all of a sudden you're going to find, I wrote a chapter today. I started the next chapter. Oh my God. I have an entire draft done in a couple of weeks. It is alarming how fast this can go. So you want to have it, you go through it could be called a chapter pile. But it also could just be your chapter log, your chapter folder, whatever it is, get it out and you find what part of that system works for you. As I said, I'm very visual. I got to see it all. If I put something in a file, it's almost like today, as you're listening to the show, if it's the first time and it's live, it's a Thursday here in the United States. And it's July 2nd. So that you're thinking, okay, Thursday afternoon. But Saturday, I'm going to go back and work on it. My Saturday brain sometimes isn't thinking the way the Thursday afternoon brain was. So now I've got to think, if I put it away, where did that Thursday brain decide it wanted to go? So I'm one of these people, I have to have it. I have a space. And when I'm working on a book and I've got things out, nobody is allowed to come into my space. Nobody. They can bring me food and drink, but nobody is allowed to come in because I have to have it there. All right. So when you're doing a cross, you've got you know what your title is. We've got an idea of what these key component chapters are because you went through what the problem was. We know the problem is going to kick off the first chapter. Or if it's your story may be part of the problems because that's where you let into it. All right. Then your second chapter is going to dive down into that problem. You'll get into some causations of what created, and maybe you created the problem. Who knows? But it's going to get into the causations, and the rest of your book is going to have the causations coupled with the effect. It may start giving nuggets to the solution to it. And until you get to the very end, you need to be, and one of the things I would be doing in a nonfiction book is I'd always have kind of bringing it all together, putting it all together. And that is usually a much shorter chapter in the process. And then for me, I always have done at the very end of the book what I call an afterword. And what I want to do with an afterword is to just bring it up and have it that, okay, this is kind of my go get 'em, kind of my rah-rah call to action that they can go on and, life is good and I can do this, or, I'm going to resolve this, or, whatever it is. But that's how I would do book's a sandwich. You've got bread on both sides or lettuce on both sides, however you eat your sandwich. And all those layers that go in the sandwich are those chapters that go together. And each one is a morsel that needs to be salivated as you go through it. And chew on your nuggets of information as you go forward with that. So when we come back, we're going to come back with some other key components of putting this together, but you're getting there. This is Judith Briles, and it's Author You, your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network, radio with a cutting edge.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Okay, so we have gone through some of the components of creating your book, and that is, one is getting yourself organized. All right, so we went back. So let's do some recapping here. You're going to do that last minute Google search. You're going to think about the problem, the cause, the effect, and the solution. That's what your book is about. For nonfiction, no matter whether it's nutrition, whether it's dealing with addiction of something, whether it's dealing with money, personal finance, whether it's dealing with how do you overcome crisis, whether it's a whole labyrinth of self-help how-to books, whether it's how to build a deck. There's a problem, I need a deck. What's the cause? Because it's all mud and I need to take care of this. And the effect is if I don't do it, it's just going to be a freaking mess every winter and spring. And that the solution is, which way do I do it? Do I do it with composite deers? Do I do it with redwood? How am I going to build this? But the solution is, and you're going to go through it. So problem, cause, effect, solution. And so you've identified that key component. You've got your material together, your data, your research. And you've got that into piles, whether it's piles on your computer, whether it's piles visually that you have. You've gone through all your any old writings that you've had on this area that you have expertise in. And you've also researched other people who are top influencers in that area of expertise. And by the way, if you're not following them in social media, in blogging and Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, etc., you need to be doing that. So who are these players? Well, you can Google them. And then you become a participant in that and you start building your own vast network. It's very important to do this, and you need this to push your book out when you come into the promotional marketing side. So you've got they're resources. You may want to quote them. You may want to go back and ask them for endorsements of that. So that's very important to do. So the second thing is, and you've got your chapter piles. So whatever you had put together there, and that you've had a component and you've brought those out. And again, as I shared with you, I do this very visually. And I have clipped, I have cut, I have copied, I have saved articles sometimes for years that I go back and reference. And I will make a very quick decision saying, this is irrelevant. This is passé. This is so, and maybe I wrote it. Whoops. Or maybe someone else's. You toss it. And by the way, when you toss it, I'm talking get rid of it. Remove it. You don't keep this stuff. It's deletable garbage at this point. So we have that. And so you've got that all together. That will be your next step that you do. And then the third step is, as you start moving, you start putting together, and this is where your storyboarding is going to come together, where I was talking about the Post-it notes. And you lay it out. I create a spread, and I have it very visual. I keep it up so I can visually see it, where it is, so I can refer back to it. And the first time I did this was a little book on money that I wrote a long time ago when I was in doing financial planning. And a long time ago, and I had to put together how to write a book in 30 days. I have actually redone that 3 different times, and it went from a little pamphlet to a full-blown book. And I just had a grid, and I kept looking around what's the logical, so I could see the logical order as these things went through, and we put it together. And then I also, in my storyboarding, one of the things that I did is I made sure I had relevant that who was my reader. I actually made a story about my ideal reader. You know, was it a he or she? It didn't matter. Were they married or were they divorced? Are they single? Or who knows what they were? Did they have any addictions? What were their fears? What were their hopes? What were their concerns? Did they have any hobbies? Did they have animals in their life? What did they like to do to play? I could visualize, because sometimes when I would get stuck, I would bring up that person. I know I'm writing for Bertha. Or I'm writing for Bert. Okay, so I could have an imaginary conversation. I know you may think I'm cuckoo, but this is what I would do and put it together. So, and you want to be able to describe your book. Is it going to be interactive? Are you going to give exercises? Is it going to have humor? Good idea to do it. What kind of stories? Where do those stories fit into as you go along? And you want to also know is what motivates you. For me, it's water, sunshine. So if it's a cloudy, gloomy day, I need to get up there and be inspired. That's part of my inspiration. It's part of my muse on that. And what kind of tools do you need? Are you a longhand writer, or have you thought about maybe you're a speaker? Can you just speak it out, and can you get it out that way? So what will help you get yourself move forward to get that real writing going? And the also thing is I wanted you, as I said, to create these nuggets. What are those those key elements that you want people to pull together to move them forward with your concept, with your wisdom, with your solutions? And part of those will be, you may have some trigger phrases, trigger concepts, and those are going to be your key points. And by the way, when you take your books out and you speak on them, your chapters should usually be tied in with those key points as you go along with that. And you have that. So then what you want to do is you've got, as I said, you're going to have your storyboard. Think about talking your book, or if you're going to, some people still need to feel and write it. That's okay. I have no problems with that. I used to handwrite things. And then you're going to start going through really the final preparation of your manuscript. I mean, this is a happy dance time as you got through with it. And once you get this all together, and I want you to have some kind of a closing chapter that brings all your key points, your key phrases, your ahas together. You're not going to create all the nuggets as you go along, but that the salivating points that will support them, and you will have those, so they will have them. And then last, I would just have kind of just, one, never more than 2 pages. And maybe these go together, but 1-2 pages, this is you speaking from your heart to your reader. That person that you visualize, that they can go to it, they can have it, they will succeed, they will achieve, and you have motivated them to do that. Just do that within 2 pages, better, so they get through very quick. If you have references in your books, please do not use footnotes. They're distracting, and they stop people. All right. What I would suggest you do is use endnotes. First of all, I would suggest you try to avoid all of them if possible, and you incorporate in your writing, in your paragraph, you cite what it is that you're referencing. When you're referencing these kind of things that would need a footnote, endnote too, I would reference it, according to Sam Smith in his book, blah, 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 he said. All right. Then I would do an indent, drop down, indent. And maybe you have whether it's a sentence or a short paragraph, fill in the blank, that you have that, you quote it, and then you come back out in your regular paragraph talking. You can decide if you want to have a suggested resource section at the very back of your book. my recommendation is, instead of putting out a humongous part of just title after title after title, whoever the author is, and title after title, what it is, who their publisher was, the date, you would do that, but I would say why you recommended it. And it could be, you may have maybe 20 resources that you will recommend, that I would put, if you can subsection them into certain categories, if there's a group that belong there, I would do that. And I would have 1 or 2 lines that you write up why you recommend these books. Even though you've cited them in, let them do it. I just think that works a little bit more smoothly with that. And then again, for some nonfiction books, they need an index. All right. There are people who specialize in doing indexes. I know my offices does them, and we have some very sophisticated software that does a deep dive into them. They go multiple, they call them layers, multiple layers, and pull them out. And then you make a decision to throw them out, or you can do it yourself. You'll do it with your keywords, your phrases. If you're thinking of an index as you're going through a chapter, I would actually put them, I use it, I have to use index cards where I have actually written them down, and what are the words, topics that I want to make sure that are in the index. Then we go back. You cannot do an index until a book is formally laid out, so you know the exact page numbers. Don't go down that path with that. And then you want to, and then you certainly have an editing. Don't edit yourself. I mean, you should edit yourself before you turn it over to a professional editor. And whether you need someone to now do rewriting because you've got the draft done, I don't know. But that may be a decision. You may need more of a developmental content. But the thing is, you've got the manuscript. You've got the first draft done. How cool is that? And then you want someone who will do the copy grammar editing for that. And then it goes to your layout person, whoever is going to do that. And if you're going to have someone, or you're going to use a template, I know that Joel Friedlander makes some very inexpensive templates that look decent. Nick Zillinger, one of our sponsors for the show, does wonderful layouts. And Michelle DeFilippo of 1106 Design, this is what they do professionally. You make a decision on where you want to go. And then you have it laid out. If you're going to do an index, this is when you add it to it. And then you decide, how am I going to print it? And then the real work then. Yeah, and I have to tell you, what we just did was the easy part. 90% is going to be the marketing. And with that, let's do a wrap up for our day together. I know I speak fast. That's one of the things I do. But you can write a book and get a draft done, nonfiction, within a month. But you have to be very focused, very persistent, very motivated. I'd love to have you work with me on one of these courses. This is Judith Briles. It's Author You, your guide to book publishing.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each week of